to the Emerging Lawyer series at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum TEIF and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is behind every brand is a battle. Karan Kamra on IP law and litigation. In the ever evolving world of intellectual property, where every idea can be an empire and every brand a legacy, one name has steadily built a reputation for precision strategy and fierce advocacy. Karan is a principal associate at Sim and San law firm. With over 12 years of hands-on experience in trademark and copyright advisory, litigation, mediation, and domain name dispute resolution, Karan brings not just legal expertise, but a sharp strategic vision. From courtroom arguments to negotiation tables, he's championed the protection of innovation. In this episode, we dive into his professional journey, personal anecdotes, philosophy behind his craft, and how he has overcome with his disabilities and grown to become a principal associate. And we also come to know uh, Karan as a person. So, welcome, Karan, to today's Coffee Corner episode, as this will be a special episode where you are inspiring others कि भाई disability is not a handicap, but we can be successful in our careers, in our passions.
Right. Thank you so much for having me, sir. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Okay. So let me explain you. There will be three rounds: professional, personal, and a surprise rapid fire round. Yours
Okay.
will be the hot seat, like you had coffee with Karan, and here's inspiration to win Legal AI 101. So
Okay.
let's begin the first round.
Right.
Friend of mine, Amir Virani, host at Coffee Corner, legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. So my first question,
Hmm.
Karan, what first
Right.
drew you towards intellectual property law and how has the journey been till date?
Right. So, in the early phase of my career, I was working with a full service law firm and I was also working with a full time legal practitioner. So, that's the time when I started actually seeing the entire length and breadth of civil and commercial disputes. And it was around that time that it dawned on me that when it comes to brands, trademarks, domain name disputes, content, and even technology, they are the epicenter of a large number of commercial disputes. And I realized that intellectual property per se is at this unique intersection of commerce, creativity, and law. And that is what truly drew me to this field of intellectual property because I realized that I can not only be reactively a part of a litigation wherein I'm helping resolve disputes that arise, but I can also be a part of it proactively, where I can help creators and individuals, businesses protect what they are building. And it is very important to protect innovation and creation. So that is what drew me to intellectual property, and that's how my journey began with intellectual property. And coming to how's it going, I would say, like any meaningful journey, it's been full of ups and downs. In the beginning years, of course, there are a lot of missteps, whether it be code craft, whether it be, your professional handling of things, whether it be client interactions, but you grow from it. And I've definitely grown, I feel. I've learned how to be tenacious and flexible, learning both from seniors and juniors alike. And I've learned the art of code craft. I've learned the art of drafting. So there has been tremendous amount of evolution in me, I would say. So the journey, touchwood, has been a good one.
So, Karan, let's build up the conversation. How do you approach balancing legal strategy with the commercial objectives of your
Mhm.
clients?
Well, I definitely believe that legal strategy and commercial objectives aren't different from each other. They have to run parallel. So it's very important to, A, for one, understand when a client comes to you as to what the objective of the litigation would be. A, for one, is it going to be about deterrence? Is it going to be about long term positioning? Or is it going to be immediate market protection? So I think you have to come up with a legal strategy that is grounded in the commercial reality of what the client is seeking. That would also
Huh.
depend, then it would also depend on what the perspective of the client is and what you feel is the best outcome in the given scenario, right? You have to decide as to whether you want to be more aggressive with the strategy or whether a more retaliatory strategy would work or a conciliatory strategy would work, where you need to pause, negotiate, get into mediation, and take things forward. So they work together, I would say, rather.
Okay, beautiful. So, current IP litigation can be both fast paced and high stakes. What keeps you grounded in the middle of complex disputes?
I think it's just being aware of the basics. Very importantly, I would say it is to know your brief very well, to understand what the commercial objective of the business that or the client that's come to you, what are they looking at, and then also understanding the statutory framework within which you're working with precision so that you can then tackle it with effective strategy. Of course, you also need to understand the process of litigation very well, which is basically you need to present your arguments, your documentation, your evidence collation. Everything has to be key. And I think once you have structure and discipline, I think that is what keeps me grounded. Because once you know what you are doing and how you want to go about it, irrespective of the challenges that come your way, you are able to deal with it effectively, especially unpredictable situations that are bound to arise in litigation. Right.
Very true. So, I'm building the conversation. In your
Right.
experience, how crucial is pre litigation strategy and negotiation important in IP disputes cases?
I think it's extremely key. I think a lot of your pre litigation strategy is what determines whether a particular suit even escalates to litigation or not. So, when you're talking pre litigation, could also be a very well drafted legal notice and great evidence collation could actually help you prevent a full blown lawsuit emanating between the parties, right? And in my experience of late, what I've started noticing is that when it comes to mediations and negotiations between parties, they are very, very effective. They're not just tools, but they're very effective tools, especially with brands and businesses becoming more interested with regard to time sensitivity, brand sensitivity, and they want business continuation. So you can obviously, in a non litigation scenario, come up with more innovative solutions that are suitable to both parties, especially where there is a long-term relationship that can be fostered between the parties, given that they might be intersecting each other in the professional landscape as well.
Wow. So, Karan, you have worked with some of the top IP firms. How did those experience shape your professional voice and legal style?
I think working with top tier law firms always brings with it its own set of challenges. You're usually working in some high stake litigations. There is a time crunch, and at the same time, there is a lot of emphasis which is laid upon clarity and accuracy, right? So I think working in those scenarios really helped me imbibe the virtues of structure and discipline and efficacy in the way I present my arguments. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned is that you need to be resilient and you need to be paying a lot of attention to detail. But apart from the technical aspects of code craft, which obviously you learn because you're working with some of the finest legal minds in the business, you learn the art of code craft, etc. But I think the biggest takeaway for me working with the top tier law firms has been that you learn how to crystallize your arguments very well. Often when we are talking IP disputes, we are talking complex legal as well as technical aspects when it comes to business and when it comes to just the nitty gritties of patent law or copyright law or trademark law for that matter. How to crystallize those arguments in court ready language, but at the same time in a manner that can be understood both by a layperson and by a judge is something that I've learned from my law firm experiences.
Beautiful. So, Karan, what role do domain name disputes play in modern brand protection and how are businesses adapting?
So domain name disputes have definitely become the cornerstone of a lot of the litigation today. At one point, domain names were considered to be a peripheral aspect, but like the world today that we live in, where everything has become digital first, a lot many times it's the first touchstone that you have as a consumer to a particular business or brand, even before you probably avail their services or get the physical goods, right? So domain name disputes have definitely become very, very prominent with businesses taking their business identifying virtue very strongly because domain names, when they specifically incorporate a registered trademark or even a deceptively similar trademark, chances of confusion among consumers is pretty high. And you have the risk not just of losing internet traffic to a competitor, but there are also phishing risks, there is chances of fraud, etc. So businesses have become extremely cognizant of how they want to deal with domain name disputes. So much so that you have now technical teams and watch services that are actually pulling out domain names that may be a problem for the brands. Then you have the complete legal department and lawyers who are working to take down these domain names as well. And even as far as clients are concerned, what I've noticed is they've also become extremely careful, and they're registering domain names with a lot many extensions. So you don't
Yes.
just have a .com domain name. Today you have a .in domain name. You also have a .co domain name, so that there are enough extensions for a brand to protect itself across its digital identity, which is
Yes.
basically a domain name.
Beautiful. So let's go memory down the lane, Karan. What has
Hmm.
been your challenging case you have handled, and why was it memorable for you?
Okay. There have been many, but I think the one that comes to my mind is a trademark dispute, which was an 18-year-old dispute, and it was for a leading automobile company. And when I stepped into that matter, I just felt that it was a maze because there were just decades and decades of pleadings and evidence and orders in the matter. So it was definitely a big challenge stepping in. I was overwhelmed in the beginning, but then slow and steady, I broke it down issue by issue, order by order, hearing by hearing. And by the end of it, I had the entire dispute mapped in my head. And like I have mentioned, that having structure and discipline helps. And by the end of it, I think we had a win in the matter. And it was an 18-year-old dispute. There were a lot of legal aspects to it. There was a lot of research involved. But by the end of it, I had such a good time. So I think the thing that was my biggest scare became something that was my biggest learning as well. So that is one interesting, challenging experience that I really enjoyed.
Wow. So now AI is everywhere. How do you see the future of IP litigation and enforcement evolving with the rise of AI and digital platforms?
Definitely, I think the next decade for IP is going to be extremely difficult because of the kind of challenges that AI and other digital platforms are bringing forth. More specifically, with regard to synthetically generated information, what happens with AI is that the traditional notions of copyright that we have, of human authorship and originality, they kind of become a little suspect in the given scenario because you have machines now actually generating literary, artistic, and creative, and sorry, musical works. And, the entire concept of ownership and creation would now need to be addressed. So we definitely need a statutory framework which would be addressing these things. Already I feel that personality rights is something that has become the name of the game, where a lot of celebrities and famous personalities are going and protecting their image, their likeness, their voice imitation, in fact, from deepfakes. So that is something that is going to be the future for me. I do believe that that is one area which is going to develop. I'm very happy to see that the new information technology rules that have been recently notified are trying to address. Yes, it's still a draft rule. Yes, there are problems with it, but at least the entire notion of discussing deepfakes and synthetically generated information is being discussed. Apart from that, I also feel that today we are talking about a digital first scenario. We are talking about a virtual world, right? And in those scenarios where a trademark may not be applicable strictly to physical goods or even with regard to services in the physical realm, you have a virtual world. So now we need to really have laws that adapt to it as well. So I think that is a significant challenge that IP will face going forward. And I hope that with legislation and judicial intervention, we'll be able to find a suitable resolve to it.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So, Karan, according to you, what are the key qualities to be a successful litigator in such a competitive IP legal space?
Curiosity, curiosity, both with regard to the basics of law. You obviously need to understand, and I speak IP, so I'll talk specifically about IP. That you need to know the basics about your trademark, copyright, and patent law, and also be ready to observe and learn by working with seasoned professionals. That I think is very important. You need to be extremely tenacious because this profession does challenge you a lot, and you need to be extremely malleable at the same time so that you can absolve I would say you can adapt to different situations. So that is something that is very important, and learn to face defeats and embarrassments with a certain amount of um, with a certain amount of parity, that this is the part of the profession and you cannot let a win go to your head or a loss to your heart. So you need to work with that clarity. Yes.
Wow. So, Karan, who has been your role model or mentor from the IP legal world?
Uh, I think when I started my career, I started it like my IP journey with Anand and Anand. So I've definitely had the good fortune of working with two stalwarts at that point, Ms. Bini Kalra and Mr. Praveen Anand. And I think they have definitely shaped a lot of the way I approach things, right from code craft to strategizing. I think they were the first ones who taught me that it is important to have a legal strategy that is grounded in the commercial objective of the client. So that balance for a young litigator to just see, and commitment and hard work and determination that they both had, was, I think, something that I very organically imbibed. So I think they were the ones who, would I say, were my first mentors in the profession. I would also like to just give a big shout out to my first reporting manager that I had, who's just Mr. Ajutan Sri Kumar. He was extremely patient with me. I was a young lawyer learning the ropes. So you have to be patient because, like I mentioned, you make mistakes. There are a lot of missteps that happen that only get resolved with experience. So I think people who've been patient, who've actually given you an opportunity to argue and find your voice, I think you have to give them credit for it. So yeah, these three individuals have been
Wow.
very, very supportive. Yes.
Okay. And now let's talk about the sensitive part. How do
Hmm.
lawyers with disabilities navigate the current legal landscape in India, and what structural changes across courts, law firms, and legal education are needed to make the profession truly inclusive?
So this is something that is extremely close to my heart, and I am glad that we're having this conversation as well. I do believe that if when you're navigating the legal landscape as a person with a disability, it's quite a mixed bag. I have been and fortunate enough to have people who supported me, and I've also seen some of my friends who happen to have disabilities as well have some supportive colleagues and mentors. But there are also skeptics who do make it difficult for you to go forward. Who have their own perceptions that are shaped probably by society, or by their own versions of what ability and disability is. I think structurally, in terms of infrastructure, I would definitely say that the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court seem to have enough resources and enough facilities for people with disabilities. However, the lower courts still need a lot of work, I would say. As far as law firms are concerned, law firms, and I make it broader, I'll say law firms and organizations, I would say the situation, because most of the times diversity has become a core issue. And therein, I would say that getting an opportunity is not very difficult. But I think what is a bigger challenge is to basically be disability cognizant pursuant to the point of entry, which I feel is the real, challenge. A lot of times, I feel that in terms of infrastructure, I think firms need to work. There is also a need for assistive and tech apps a lot many times when you're working with, because disabilities are a whole spectrum. They are not something that is confined to a particular kind of disability. So I think
Yes.
you need to be adaptive to that. And when you hire a person, it has to be a conversation and a dialogue, which often I think is missing. And it's what I call disability blindness pursuant to the point of hiring, which is that they want a person with a disability to actually be uh, at par with somebody who does not have a disability, but without giving them the adequate resources to combat the systemic barriers or even the physical limitations that they encounter. So I think a conversation is important, a dialogue is important. I think sensitivity training is very important across all levels. I just don't mean that the seniors should be taught, sensitivity with regard to how to tackle, people with disabilities. And what I mean by tackling is mentoring and and having leadership qualities with regard to juniors, and even with regard to people in senior roles, is something that requires training. And I think, unfortunately, when it comes to the legal field, there's a lot of emphasis on the legal aspect of growing and learning, but when it comes to just leadership mentorship qualities, I think there is a lot that needs to be done.
Uh, Beautifully put up, Karan. So, what are the invisible barriers
Hmm.
lawyers with disabilities face?
I think a lot of times it is just a perception. I think you walk into a room, and when they, like, I'll talk about my personal lived in experience. I don't want to talk for everyone, but I would just say that when you walk into a room, they see you and they have an opinion of what you can do and what you cannot do simply by just looking at you. Without having a conversation. Like, for instance, I walk with a limp, and a lot of times I've been asked, I don't think that you're fit for litigation because you wouldn't be able to stand for long, which is not a correct thing. So, you have those barriers, and then obviously, I would say invisible barriers is if something requires, more intensity. So they are like, oh, it may not be your cup of tea, or if something is requiring immediate turnaround, you're almost dismissed that you don't think that they will be able to deliver. So these are, I think, a mindset is what I would rather say is that needs to change, and we need to be a little more open to having conversations. I think a lot of times, I think it's not even the intention of not having a conversation. It is just that people are too embarrassed as to how to approach a topic. So I think
Yes.
conversation is key. I think dialogue is key. That is what I would say is a big invisible barrier.
So let's build a conversation.
Yeah.
What's what, what's a misconception about disability in
Hmm.
professional spaces that you wish the legal fraternity would let go of?
I think the fact that a disability is in fact a hindrance, it's not. It is in fact something that confers upon you greater amount of resilience, I would say. I think the ability to adapt in a person with a disability is louder than any bias that you face when you enter the room. So I think that is something that is important for people to realize, that if you give a person with a disability the right resources, I always say that when you talk about inclusivity, it has to go via the path of empathy, and you have to create conditions for equal opportunities and for greater success for people. So if you're going to create conditions where there is a possibility of equal success for all individuals, then whether you have a disability or you do not have a disability, you will still be successful. So back people with resources, with the requisite support, and then with resilience. And I say this because I've seen a lot of people with disabilities around me. I'm one with the disability. And I know for a fact that the fire and the passion that a person with disability brings to the table is something that is not that a lot of people have. So I think it is just giving the right opportunity and faith.
Yes.
Yes.
That is what coffee is doing. We don't
Yeah.
see कि मैं अपना we have given opportunity to principal associates, senior associates. We've given them in-person coffee shoots, and we have not, in this 5 years, not charged 1 rupee to any coffee speaker, whether in person or on Zoom, international or wherever. And we
I think that's
don't
the way
go
it should
by
be.
who the other person is. No religion, no politics, and just come enjoy conversation, take memories, be the change maker, and bring smiles for a lifetime.
That's the way it should be. And that's the way it should be. It's
Yeah.
equal opportunity for all so that everyone can shine. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because there has been a case where one of my coffee speakers, he introduced his colleague,
Hmm.
principal associate, and
Hmm.
we gave a in-person opportunity.
Oh, wow. That's excellent.
So partner in person, principal associate or senior associate in person.
Right, right.
So this is what a senior partner thinks about his team members. कि how
Yeah.
to not only कि भाई I am going, मेरा कॉफी हो जा रहा है, मेरा इंटरव्यू हो रहा है, but he is thinking about his team members also. कि हाँ, let them
Great.
also
Great.
shine wherever,
Right.
not only on coffee, wherever.
Hmm.
You take them to the conferences, अपना ये meetings, discussions, wherever.
Right, right.
My last
That's
question.
right. Right, right.
What advice would you give to young law students or lawyers with
Hmm.
disabilities who feel unseen or underestimated in the legal system?
I would say to any young person or a lawyer with a disability who's walking into the legal arena today, that be completely sure of yourself. There is nothing that you need. A lot of people have invisible handicaps. You just have a visible one, and you bring to the table determination. You bring to the table your skill set. Be ready to adapt. Be ready to learn. Be ready to thrive. Keep your skill set very high, and don't let any wall be an impediment. Any wall that you see in front of you only requires an axe to break it down. That is the way I look at it. And you don't owe anyone anything. You owe yourself an opportunity, and don't be scared of fighting for it when needed. Yeah.
Wow. So we are featuring another coffee speaker. He's
Hmm.
also with disability on wheelchair,
Hmm.
CA Jaijit. So I want
Right.
to have a fireside chat between both of you He's from you from the legal side, and he's from
Mm.
the cyber security. How both
Oh,
of you have
interesting.
achieved
Right.
uh, where you have in your professional career domains, and
Right.
ये path you have to go through, and how did your near and dear ones, your professional colleagues, supported you in your career path?
Right.
So this is what we look for in coffee: interesting
Great.
conversations on different topics.
Right.
And
Right.
apna. So the coffee speaker is now part of the coffee type community, and the
Oh,
conversations
wow.
is continuous over different topics.
Great. Amazing.
So this is what I do during the conversation. What next to do with
Yeah. Yeah.
a coffee speaker.
Right.
So
Amazing.
let's go to
Amazing.
the let's go to the next round and understand Karan as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years.
Okay. So my formative years were spent in my hometown. It's a small little town in Jharkhand called Dhanbad. My parents happen to be very reputed in the pharmaceutical sector, but it's a world that is completely different from the world of codes and statutes that define my everyday life today. So growing up, it was because of my background as well as because of the two resilient parents that I have. I think the virtues of hard work and commitment and consistency came very naturally to me. But yes, growing up with cerebral palsy in a small town like Dhanbad, I often felt the need to be seen and heard. So I think that took me down the path of extempores and debating, where I was able to find my voice. I felt that I could make an impact with what I was saying, and that drew me to law. I guess I think the black coat for me therein started signifying the possibility that merit could speed louder than mobility, and that conviction and courage could override any preconceived notions of ability, so to speak. And from there, I think the first major leap that I had was obviously coming to Delhi, doing my graduation in political science honors from Hindu. And that's the first exposure that I had to the constitution and laws and the interplay between the laws and power structures, etc. And I was completely drawn to that world, and that eventually led me to Campus Law Center, wherein I've finally found my love for law, I would say. Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. So what's that ritual or hobby that helps you to
Mm.
switch off from work mode completely?
I think music. I think I have a long playlist, and the minute it's like a mental detox that happens. I think I play my playlist, and then the entire world disappears. So just me and my music. So I would say music for me. It's a complete stress buster.
Wow. So what kind of uh, music you like to listen to, and which is your favorite song, and what ye- what are that inspiration you got from that song or music?
Okay. I like a mix of music actually. I'm very big into Bollywood music, but I also enjoy Punjabi music. I love Sufi music. I'm a lot into Coke Studio. So that's the kind of music I like. Coming to the song that I really, really like, and I use it as my motivational song, my pump music, like I call it sometimes, is the song from this movie called Lakshya, called हाँ यही तेरा लक्ष्य है, लक्ष्य तो पाना है करके. I'm not going to sing it. I'm a very bad singer, but I think that song just defines me in a lot of ways. It is something that I find is so relatable to your journey because it's about finding your goal and working towards it. So yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow. So tell us about a small personal win in your
Hmm.
early days of life that means the world to you.
Definitely, without a doubt, I have this moment really intrinsically linked to my memory. I was a very awkward teenager, and I think it was the 10th standard extempore competition where very reluctantly I participated. And I remember stepping up on stage, and the topic was given to me just 10 minutes before we went on stage. And I spoke my views on that particular topic. And something in me that day shifted because I realized that I had the ability to not only voice my opinions, but also present them effectively. And it was not the claps that followed thereafter, it was not anything else. But in me, I think something shifted that day because I realized that I could voice my opinion. And I found my voice that day, and I've never looked back ever since. So I think that would be, that personal win that has stayed with me till today. Yeah.
Wow. So if your friends had to describe you in three words, what would they say?
I would say stubborn, would be the first thing because I'm really stubborn on things that I really want. I'm loyal because I'm fiercely loyal about the people I love and care about. And I third would be the eternal optimist because I think I see the silver lining in every situation.
Wow. So, what a childhood memory when you reflect back, bring a smile on your face.
A lot actually, but like I said, I've always been somebody who's a dreamer. So I loved movies right from the very onset, and this whole thing about a performance, and the ability to move people and evoke emotions, is something that I was completely drawn to. And I think I always wanted to be something in the filmmaking sector, either behind the camera or in front of the camera. And today, when I look at my profession, I think a lot of it is still play acting. When you step into a courtroom, you become the most calm version of yourself, and no matter what's happening in the background, you have to stand tall and make arguments with clarity and precision. So I feel that's a childhood memory that makes me smile. That's something that I dreamed of, becoming an actor, of telling stories or narratives that were compelling. I'm doing it in a variant form of a way today in my legal profession.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, so my last question would be for a personal journey round. Describe Karan in one line. It's a googly one.
That's a difficult one actually. um I would say a relentless dreamer, because I think I rebuilt and I move forward with purpose and determination. I think that is the way I would define myself. Yes.
Beautiful. So let's put you in the hot seat, the rapid fire
God.
round. Your favorite color.
My favorite color, red, because it's passion.
Wow. Your go-to comfort food.
My go-to comfort food. On a good day, it would definitely be chola bhature.
Okay. Early morning code preparations or late night strategy calls.
I prefer late night strategy calls. I'm a night owl.
Wow. Trademark or copyright.
Trademark. That's
Delhi
where
High
my,
Court.
yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Delhi High Court or mediation table.
Both. But I think Delhi High Court. Yeah.
One legal maxim you love quoting.
One legal maxim. I think sui generis.
Best piece of advice received.
Best piece of advice received. Hmm. It's don't do something alone that you wouldn't be proud of talking publicly about.
Wow. Your favorite coffee order.
My favorite coffee order. I like pretty basic cold coffee, to be very honest. I am not a very much of a coffee drinker.
Your dream travel place.
Sorry.
Dream travel place.
Oh, I love Poland. I have always wanted to visit, and I hope one day I can. Yeah, so Poland, yes.
Tea or coffee to recharge.
Tea on most days, coffee on days that I need to be up all night.
Okay, let's restore. You're the coffee show.
Yeah.
And here's your book, which will be sent to you with my autograph.
Thank you.
So, as we close this powerful conversation with Karan, we are reminded that intellectual property law isn't just about protecting ideas, it's about safeguarding identity, creativity, and vision. Karan's journey reflects a blend of sharp legal acumen, grounded personal values, and a relentless drive to evolve with the changing IP landscape. His story stands as an inspiring reminder that behind every trademark is a story worth fighting for, and with his disabilities, he has made a mark in his career, and we salute. Believe in yourself and you will reach where you see yourself. And we dedicate this special episode to all those people. Don't feel by you're born with a disability, but take it in your stride, build up on your capabilities, and with the surrounding environment, you will be successful in your career wherever you are as an entrepreneur professional. So, like that, there are 500 plus coffee speakers who have shared their personal professional journey, insights. Subscribe to the Coffee Guru Show, implement their insights in your life, see the changes, and we continue our conversation with a cup of coffee with another speaker. So, take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.